This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard, and we're excited to be with you today. We've got a really cool, fun, and informative, high value episode for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to weatherproof your business from financial storms. And oh my gosh, here in this country, we are facing a lot of storms, especially down in the Southeast, right? It's been one hurricane after another. And we face storms in our business. Sometimes it could be resulting from natural disasters, where we have to rely on our disaster recovery plans. And if our business is without electricity, or we face disruptions to our business, what do we do? Right. But certainly financially, there's a lot of things that's sometimes outside of our control, higher level economic activities, pandemics. There's a lot of things that can happen, and there's a lot of challenges we can face, a lot of storms we can face. But the good news is there are things we can do to quote unquote weatherproof us from those types of things and shield us from some of those activities and minimize any impact to us and help us to be more successful. So today we have the privilege of having an expert on the show that knows this stuff inside and out, helps people every day in these situations, right? So today we have the privilege of having Jason Kruger on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about Jason. A very impressive person, very accomplished individual. He's the founder and president of Signature Analytics, which is an accounting financial advisory firm based out of San Diego, California. They help businesses better understand their financial data, make smarter decisions, and be as profitable as possible, which, who wouldn't want all of that, right? So we're going to hear from the pro himself on how to, navigate these things and better situate our businesses. So without further ado, Jace, welcome to the show, man.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on the show. So Jason, for the audience, talk to us a little bit about you and your company and how you got to kind of where you are today with your success and your business and all the great things you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career in public accounting. Spent most of my time at Deloitte, which is one of the large global public accounting and consulting firms. And so it gave me a really good foundation to learn a lot about a number of different companies, a number of different industries, how businesses were operating. I saw everything from startups to Fortune 500 companies and everything in between. And what I realized over a period of time, and I spent about 10 years in public accounting, what I realized over a period of time was that there were companies in the small mid-market. I felt they deserved better than what they had as it relates to their accounting and financial team that was really supporting their business. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies, initially they look at accounting and finance as a necessary evil. They have to pay their bills, they have to invoice and collect the cash so that they can pay their employees and make payroll, and then they do their taxes at the end of the year. And what we wanted to do, and at the same time, the skill set and the talent that's available in that small mid market for these companies is quite a bit limited from a cost perspective and the value that you're getting out of it. And so the idea was if we can provide that top talent to that market, to that underserviced market, in a fractional scalable way, then we can really provide a lot of value for these companies. And so started Signature Analytics in 2008. From there, and I can speak to your audience all day about growing pains and war stories and everything like that, but we've had some nice growth over time. Now we have about 75 full-time employees that service our clients nationally, across the country, in different industries, to really support them and make sure they have the right financial information at their fingertips when they need it, and in the right format to be able to make decisions. And it starts from the fundamentals of how, your processes of, how you invoice, how you pay bills, how you close the books, but ultimately then getting you to a point where, hey, I have good data, I understand the metrics of my business, I understand the cash flows of my business, so I can make decisions to achieve the goals I have as I want to move forward.
Jason, you're a humble and gracious, person, and so you may not be the kind of person to brag, but I want to brag on you a little bit because there's a couple things that I've learned about you and your business that are really a couple great milestones. I just want to congratulate you on becoming an Inc. 5000 award winner, not just once, but 5 times in a row. That's pretty impressive. The other thing is you guys were awarded the best place to work. Now that's really tough because that is taking inputs from all of your staff and employees, providing inputs, and the powers to be kind of look at that and compare your company and their employee inputs with other folks. And so for you to be able to, win that says, a lot about your leadership, a lot about your culture, a lot about your way you do things, how you serve your customers. And so congratulations on those things. I'm just curious, when I talk to entrepreneurs and business leaders, what do you think were the top few things that really contributed to you getting that kind of level of recognition?
Yeah, I will say that we're in a professional service environment, so our people are critical to our success. And I will say I never truly understood the value of strategic HR and culture until we had somebody in that role that really helped to drive that for our business. And I think that, um, beyond, when people think of culture, they think of, oh, okay, yeah, well, we go to some happy hours here and there, and we do a couple other fun things. We have a ping pong table in the office, but there's a lot more that goes along with culture than just an occasional fun event or some things like that. And so it's really about, what we established, over time is a complete, kind of overhaul of how we oversee and how we provide support for our team and our people to ensure that they are getting, that they have the right team members that they can talk to, and they have the right visibility into their own career growth and plan. And so we implemented an entire people management structure behind the scenes, where we have our individuals, even at the lower levels, that are responsible to support the hiring process and the communications, with their employees or their direct reports. And that created, a lot more transparency within the team as a whole, along with, real clarity within the team as to, hey, if I want to get to X point in my career, how do I do that within Signature Analytics? And we always wanted to develop, kind of use Signature Analytics as a platform, to allow our team to achieve the goals that they have for their career. And so we've been very flexible because we have been growing and we've had a lot of opportunities. People know that they will be promoted based on, not because somebody in front of them left, but because, they deserve it and they know that career path and that timeline. And other areas, because of some of the growth we've had people that have stepped outside of accounting and finance, and to support some operational roles. And so we've tried to be flexible from that perspective as well. But the cultural side is critical, especially in a people business like ourselves. And I think that we continue to provide that transparency, the communications with our team. And I think that's a big part of what's allowed us to, have our employees recognize us in a way that we can become the, best places to work from, the local business journals and from the Inc. magazine.
Yeah, I think that's so important. If you want to be a mature company, if you want to be an excellent company and drive excellence and be recognized by not only your own staff, but your customers and the supporting communities around you. It's all about the people. Business is about people. Take the people out, and you don't really have, much of a business left, right? So you want to continue to strive for excellence, continue to invest in your people, and great things will happen there, right? So thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people that I talk to in my line of work as a business coach, they want to aspire to compete for some of these prestigious awards, and a lot of people just don't know how to do that and what's involved and how that works. And so, yeah, thank you for being gracious enough to explain that and your journey there, because I think a lot of people get a value out of that. um, so let's talk about finance. Let's talk about, um, why you do what you do, right? It's really all about, finance and accounting really is about numbers, obviously, right? But I think it's much more than that. It's more about the data that make up the numbers, what's the other things that surround it as well. And what I have found, I want your opinion on this, Jason, is a lot of business leaders don't understand or take the time to understand, talk to the people that understand what's really going on in the data, the facts, the figures, and what story that's telling. So how many out of 10 people do you work with really understand that?
Yeah, not many, one or two maybe.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, though, the ones that we work with, they know they see that blind spot, and so that's why we're working with them, right? And I think,
yeah,
unfortunately, there's a number of other business owners where they haven't experienced a pain point associated with that yet, so it's never the top priority. And what ends up happening is, they ultimately need financing, and they're talking to a bank, and the bank says, let me see your financials. That's the first question they ask, and
right,
they hit print on QuickBooks, give the bank the financials, and the bank says, hey, come back to me when you actually have numbers um, that I can either trust more, or that I can have more confidence in, or just that I can truly see that you take those numbers seriously. Or a lot of times too, cash is critical. Cash flow is critical in the business, and so a lot of the pain points is, hey, we're running out of cash. Right? It looks like I look at my income statement and it looks like we're profitable, but where's all my cash, right? And so I usually say, well, it's one of a couple things. One is your income statement isn't correct. It's not accurate. Or two, if you're a manufacturing company, you might have too much inventory, and so all your cash is on the shelf. Or there's just understanding the timing of cash based on when you have to buy product versus when you sell it, and the timing of when cash comes in and out. Being able to truly understand and manage that can really help business owners to move beyond that too. But unfortunately, a lot of companies, they don't see the value in accounting and finance until they start feeling that pain point, and then hopefully they have that aha moment, which then allows them to get things in order to take that next step as a business.
now, Jason, I'm curious, why do you think that is? Why aren't people in, positions of authority and leadership in a business, why aren't they more tuned into their numbers? Why aren't they tuned into what's going on financially? They just are just getting busy and, going to meetings all the time. They just, lose track. They just don't care. They just don't understand it. It's Greek to them. Like, what are some of the contributing factors that people struggle with there?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what you just mentioned. I think that's not a lot of business owners. That's not their background. They know their product, they know their service, and they build a business and they have a great idea because of that. But they were never formally trained or were involved in the finance function of businesses before. Sometimes they are scared of it; they don't understand it. It's they're trying to be self-taught. And other times, as we both have mentioned, it's, well, I'm not feeling the cash is there. I'm not feeling the pain points. So I just need somebody to just make sure I get my invoices out and pay my bills. Um, but ultimately, to truly achieve a business that has significant value and valuation if you want to exit or grow beyond a certain point. And I typically think, over 5 million, but especially over 10 million in revenue, if you don't have your hands around the financial side of the business and truly understand that aspect and are making decisions based on the metrics associated with that, it's very, very difficult to have a profitable business. And it's also very difficult to, ultimately have a business that has that in which you've maximized your market valuation if you do want to exit.
Yeah, I think that's so important and couldn't agree more. I think, I see people sometimes, the owner will pop into the finance office, on the way to lunch. Hey, Sally, how's the finances? Everything looking good this month? And oh yeah, everything's looking good. And they go to lunch. But what Sally doesn't know is that you approved a week ago, you approved some capital investment. You also brokered some deal with a new client to do things a certain way. And about a month or so down the road, a lot of this stuff starts kind of collapsing in. And the timing of all of this stuff working out puts you in a deficit. And nobody saw it coming because there's siloed conversations and agreements, and people weren't on the same page and planning, talking enough. And I see this, a lot. And they don't ask the right questions either. It's, so how are the finances doing? Yeah, we're profitable this month. Well, by how much? 0.01% or 50%. There's a big difference there. And so, yeah, what are some of the major impacts? I want people to understand how important understanding finance really, really is. Now, we're not trying to make anybody a CPA. We're not trying to certify somebody and, being an accountant, because a lot of people don't want to be an accountant. They want to be a leader or an expert in their own area. But as a leader, you need to understand what are some of the implications if you don't understand it and you don't know how to read P&Ls and balance sheets and cash flow charts. What are some of the detrimental things that could happen if you don't?
Yeah, I love that question because the first thing that we always start with is cash flow. So, um, the first thing that the business we want to understand is, do we have an understanding of what your cash flow is? As we look forward, um, I'd say that the industry standard is 13 weeks. That's 1/4 of the year. So a 13-week cash flow is critical. And so do we understand that from a weekly basis as we project out? And then you start to have those discussions with the team internally, and you start to flush out those items that you just mentioned earlier, which is, the business owner says, knows we have a capital campaign, but the accounting person over here doesn't realize that. Well, those items need to be flushed out and need to be included in the forecasting of the cash flow as you move forward. That also helps you understand the flow of cash just generally within your business. So, in other words, if you're manufacturing, you have to buy a product or supplies up front in a certain week here, and you know that that doesn't ultimately turn into cash until after you sell it and collect down the line over here, you can start to factor some of those things in. So you can start to project what that looks like. And so that gives you the confidence at a minimum that okay, well, we know we're going to be in business over the next quarter, and we can manage that. And if there's some peaks or valleys, we can manage against that and to proactively manage. And so that's typically updated at least weekly. In some cases, we've done it monthly. In some cases, it's even daily, depending on the situation. So that's number one, is making sure we have cash flow. The second is starting to understand getting some level of consistency and the financial reporting of the business as a whole. So at a minimum, we want monthly financial information that we can review. Once you get beyond that, you can get more granular and start getting weekly or even daily information. So you have visibility throughout the month as to what your revenue trends are, your expense trends. Obviously, we've talked about cash flow, those types of things. But as you start getting more granular within your business, we can start then looking at your profitability metrics and understanding what they are, and then making sure that, or determining what our targets might be. And so if we actually truly understand what our profitability metrics are, we can hopefully make decisions to improve upon that and become a more profitable and a better and a more healthy company as well. And it sounds crazy, but I always talk about if you're a $10 million company and you improve your gross margin percentage by 1%, that's $100,000 that just goes straight to the bottom line. And so, 1 percentage point is big, can be a big deal. And if I ask somebody what their margins are on their product or their services, and they say, well, we're between 40 and 50%. Well, is it 40%? Is it 50%? Is it 45? I mean, that's a huge difference. And we don't want to just be kind of, sticking our finger in there and guessing. We want to go to the percentage point, and we want to manage our business so that we know to the percentage point where we're going to land as a business, because that has huge ramifications on cash and ultimately business valuation when we get down the road to a potential exit as well. So again, it's digging deeper into the numbers so that we have visibility into what past performance so that we can impact future performance. And then that's where ultimately, forecasting, certain levels of modeling might come into play as well. But really getting that information in depth can give us so much insight on how to make decisions to improve, your margins and ultimately the health of your business.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough Jason's point about the data, because the data and the numbers, once you compile it, and bring it all together, it tells a story. And that data allows you to make decisions, right? You obviously want to make the best informed decisions possible in your business, no matter what area of the business you may be considering, whether it's hiring somebody or making a financial decision. Making the best informed decisions is critical. And the best way to do that is really understanding the components of that informed decision, which is packed in the data itself, and experts that really understand what that's really saying and what it's not saying. And so, Jace, one thing that really stands out to me about you and your company and how you guys do things is you guys are known to, shake it up, and really, kind of rattle the cages there for companies. Um, how do you? What is your definition of shaking it up when you work with people and help people run their businesses differently? What is that about? How does that work? In how does that change anything for people when you come in there and shake things up and do things differently?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that we tell our clients is that we want, because of what I mentioned earlier, that it's an underserved market, meaning they don't have our clients, they don't have the budget necessary to bring in the top talent. They don't, and they're not getting the quality of data and information. And so the first thing that I like to do is ask our client or the business owner or the executive team, what are your goals as you look forward into the future of your business? And that really then defines how we report on this business and how we make decisions on this business. And so if your goals are, hey, we want to grow this thing and we want to sell it in 3 to 5 years. Okay, that's fantastic. We then can develop a plan and a structure to make sure that you have the right information to make decisions to do that. But if your goal is to say, hey, you know what, I want this to be a legacy company, I want to hold it, I want to continue to build it uh, slow and steady over the next 20 years and ultimately transition it to key employees or to family members, then that may be another strategy as well. And so depending on what the goals of management are, really define how we then position the company from a financial perspective. And when we talk about shaking things up, it's saying, okay, let's assess everything about your accounting and financial environment, and let's make sure it's aligned with the goals that you have for this business so that we can give you all of the information you need to be able to make decisions to achieve those goals. We don't want you to be, we want to be proactive and leading the charge in this because we're the finance, supporting the finance function of the business. And so how do we position the company from even from the lowest level up through financial reporting, business advisory types of services to give you that information. And sometimes that means that we're repositioning the team that they currently have in place. We're implementing new processes and procedures to ensure that we have confidence and we're able to get the data we need. We can get very granular if needed in certain areas, but other areas maybe we don't, because we always look at the cost benefit. And we always want to make sure that, especially for companies that are looking for high growth, they're positioned and they have the credibility to be able to talk to those outside parties and third parties with their financial information, which gives them that next step of trust with those parties that they're talking to as well. So it's very customized based on what the goals of the individuals and management and the ownership is, as to how we restructure and or structure them for success.
Yeah. So we're talking about, getting organized, getting a system, getting your processes in place, being disciplined in your finances as far as, what's going out, what's coming in, knowing what that is, setting, some things up in a structured manner to where you can make sense of that, you can predict that, even particularly model that, and really run those aspects of the business as a well-oiled machine. And so for a lot of people, they kind of do things ad hoc. A lot of people may have a person or two in the business or an outsourced group doing things in QuickBooks or whatever. And that's all good and well. But in order for you to really drive excellence and scale and grow, you really do have to shake things up and put the rigor in place to do that. The more rigor and discipline equals, a lot more freedom to make decisions and plan better and look at opportunities to invest or take advantage of capital expenditures or buy another company, do an acquisition, really can make a difference for you. And so I want to pivot on top of that. I want to pivot into, man, once you shake it up, once you get everything straight and narrow, um, where does the weatherproofing come into play, right? Because you're known to be a group that comes in and kind of weatherproofs everything, kind of, prepares for the storm. So no matter if it's a category 5, tornado coming through or what, they can sustain that kind of impact and work through that and not get blown away in the process. So talk to us about weatherproofing and what that is, what that isn't, and how that works. I'm fascinated by this to learn more.
Well, that's where the budgeting and forecasting also comes into play, which is, okay, we have our business as we know it now. Here's our financials, here's our balance sheet, here's our P&L. You mentioned balance sheet. I can't stress the importance of understanding the balance sheet and knowing that if the balance sheet is not correct, then the P&L is also not correct. So when I hear business owners say, "Oh, well, I don't really ever, I don't understand the balance sheet, or I don't know the balance sheet. I just look at my P&L." Well, we have to have confidence. If the balance sheet is not correct, the P&L is not going to be correct. So that's a little off topic, but going back into the weatherproofing, there's things that can be done up front, and it starts with the annual budgeting process of starting to map out what your plan is for the upcoming year, which we're now in a good time to start doing that. And then looking at different scenarios that may or may not happen during the year as well. So, I like to use the three different scenarios. Uh, I guess good, bad, and great. So here's kind of our normal, but we also have to plan if things happen, right? Maybe we go into recession. Um, there's a lot that also can be done. Just looking at the overall expense structure of a business. We did this a couple of years ago, and we were able to identify quite a bit of expenses that we were incurring that we're really providing no value to the business or limited value. And a lot of times you can get hung up in technology costs, or different technologies that you thought were great at one point and now you're continuing to pay for them even though you're not really using it. And so really looking at expenses on a detailed line by line basis consistently, I'd say at least annually, to revet, are these expenses driving value to my business? And if they're not, we can cut them. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, at how much some of that builds up over time for businesses that are are not very profitable, but it gives them an opportunity to add a few more points down to the bottom line just by looking at those expenses. The other thing that I'd say is make sure you have a strong banking relationship. And what I mean is not the teller at the bank when you walk in to deposit some checks, but a true um, a bank with a lending arm that you have a relationship with, that understands your business, and that maybe you've provided some information to, and you want to get them teed up to work with you. And it's better to get the funds now when you don't need it versus when you need it. It's much more difficult to get financing. And so setting up a line of credit now with a bank, even if it's small, starts to build that relationship with the bank. And there's a lot of value that can go into that. So building that relationship. I'm a big proponent of the local community banks. Seem to have a little bit more flexibility. They take more time to get to know their clientele and their people, and you might have a little bit more flexibility with them as a lender versus some of the bigger banks. The bigger banks provide a lot of value in a lot of ways too, depending on who you are. But local community banks are important as well. There's also, even things like the SBA financing is there's an opportunity there. There's a even more flexible if you live in the state of California. There's an SBA equivalent that's based out of the state of California that gives some flexibility in financing, and banks are much more open because the government is backing those loans to a certain extent, and so it makes getting and obtaining certain levels of financing a little bit more easily from that perspective as well. Um, and then the other piece is, this is the toughest one, which is the people side, right? So make sure we understand everybody within our business, and do they continue to all align with the business as we're moving forward. Sometimes we've seen businesses where individuals may have been hired a year ago, 2 years ago, for certain initiatives, in which those initiatives have really not come to fruition. And now they're kind of in a position that isn't really adding value to the business as it is today. And so sometimes those are difficult decisions and discussion points, but you at least need to know, um, am I holding too much staff? Am I getting true value? Is my team aligned with the current missions and goals I have for this business? And am I maximizing the value out of my team as I move forward? And so those are consideration points to know. And as you put the budget together, you'll start to see where some of those things fall out, and you'll start to realize, hey, you know what? This individual, yes, we hired them for one initiative that we're not really um, getting much value in or didn't materialize. Now they're on this other role, which kind of doubles up with this other person. And if you look at that individual, are they truly aligned with your company moving forward? Is that cost you're paying? I mean, you take away that cost, that's a savings to the business, to be reinvested in other areas, or it can go to more profitability to the business. So those are tough decisions, especially when you're dealing and working with people. But those are definitely decisions that you have to be aware of now before, in case you hit a rougher patch.
Excellent, excellent points there to help weather proof your business. These things are just foundational. They're critical. They're must haves. These aren't optional. These aren't, yeah, I wish one day I could do that. Like it doesn't matter if you're in a really small company or a medium size or a large size company. These things are foundational principles of how to think and the mindset that sets the tone for thinking about where the company's going, what needs to happen to drive excellence and success, right? And I think is there a particular customer or story you can tell where you came in and you discovered X, Y, and Z, and then you quote unquote weatherproof them, and what the result was, at the end? Is there a favorite story or favorite maybe client that you don't need to name on the show, of course, but that kind of underscores how this works and why it's so important.
Yeah, my favorite story, similar kind of what you just mentioned, is relates to a client who's actually been a client now for close to 7 years. And when we started working with them, we received a referral from their CPA who does their financial statement audit. Happens to be a nonprofit. We work with a number of nonprofits, yeah, along with for profits, but this happened to be a nonprofit. And they had there was the original kind of founder of and it's a very what I would say is well known in the community nonprofit. It has it's in the Hollywood scene. It has a number of high uh, individuals with large Fortune 500 corporations that are on the board. So it's very well known within the community. And but when we first got uh, introduced in, we were introduced because there was challenges from an accounting and financial perspective, and the accounting had just been severely neglected. Things were in literally in shoe boxes and kind of all over the place. Different systems. Our team went on site there one day, and the power went out because they hadn't paid their gas and electric bill. And so our team was doing everything from calling the power company to get the lights back on to trying to make sense of what's happening. And over a period of time, we were able to transition that organization from literally almost going out of business to a very successful um, relationship where now the finance and accounting function of that organization is one of their strengths. And that's why we've been there for 7 years and we've continued to support them. We've gotten significant number of uh, references and referrals and built relationships with their board members as a result of this. In some sense, they had a little egg on their face because the board for not realizing how bad things had truly gotten. Um, and so we kind of saved their face a little bit as well through this process. And and so now when we look back, it's a situation where we can kind of chuckle and laugh about it, about the situation and about the lights going out because of how great things have gone and are moving forward now. But in short, what we were able to do is create consistency, define responsibilities, create consistency in the financial records, make sure there's a process to close the books every single month, get them all on one system, whereas they were on multiple systems before, and make sure that the new executive director or CEO actually was able to get information that he could trust, that he could make decisions off of, make sure that we were able to develop good financial information to be able to report to the board. So the board had clarity and really give them confidence that, okay, this is our financial picture. And once we understand that, now we can talk about how we grow the business from here. But before that, it was, hey, we didn't know how much money we had. We didn't know where things were. I mean, there was, uh, there was, papers that just said IOUs, literally IOUs on it. Uh, it was it was all over the place. And so to be able to transition them from that to now the finance arm of their business or the organization as a strength has really put them in solid footing and allowed them to do some significant deals with other uh, studios and other organizations to be successful.
Wow, what an amazing story, especially for a nonprofit, they're there to serve the community and, somebody in need, something in need for the community. And then you got that kind of backing from, those larger size firms, celebrities in Hollywood, that's pretty impressive. And, think about, the people that they may not have been able to serve because they may not have known, what they could and couldn't do for them because of their financial situation, right? Think about, one day you're at work and then the lights go off, the computers go down and you're like, what? Oh, nobody paid the bill. Like that's just kind of chaotic, right? Unpredictable. And you just how can you possibly thrive in any you can't. You can't.
And it starts getting back to the culture too, right? So then you have people that don't want to work there, and who wants to work for a company where you're not even sure if the bills are being paid? And you think, hey, am I even going to get paid? As an employee, and so that's all goes along.
Yeah, I mean, what yeah, I mean, you're touching on on some things that are part of a broader set of issues there, right? There's a lot of things you didn't say that were going on there, clearly, and so by you helping them, I think you've helped them in a lot of other ways, across the company, other than just getting their book their books out of a shoebox into QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you're using, right? So, for the folks out there listening, as we're kind of drawing to a close of today's podcast, I want to challenge you. Is your organization, whether you're a nonprofit, for profit, government, whatever you may be, is your organization weatherproofed? Is it weatherproofed? Can you say with confidence you know exactly where your finances are, how much money you got in the bank, how long you can go if you need to go float for a while, if the electric bill's getting going to get paid, if there's going to be an issue with payroll, if there's going to be an issue with the benefits packages being canceled, if, what if, is your business weatherproofed? How do you know? What are the things you need to be thinking about? What are the signs? What are the symptoms? Jason talked about that here a little bit earlier on the show, right? If you're not 100% confident in your finances, if you don't feel like your organization is weatherproofed, I highly, highly recommend you connect with an expert that knows exactly what questions to ask, where to look, and can give you some insight to you understanding these things and having confidence in your finances so you can better run your organization, right? Jason's organization is about being smarter, understanding the data, understanding the information that surrounds that organization so you can make smarter, faster, better decisions, especially if you're in a for profit organization. There's competitors out there and they're looking for every single opportunity to gain an edge. Well, if you can make faster, smarter, better quality decisions than your competitor, you're probably going to win over your competitors. And Jason helps folks do that. And so, Jason, thanks for being on the show, my friend. Thank you for all the great things you're doing to help people, certainly out there in the profits, but obviously in the for profits. If folks want to connect with you, if they want to learn more, if they want to, ask questions, whatever, how do they contact you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, our website is pretty easy. It's signatureanalytics.com. I can be found on LinkedIn if you want to reach out directly as well. And even if you want to shoot me an email, the letter J Kruger, that's Kruger at signatureanalytics.com. I really enjoyed talking to business owners, business leaders, and if I can answer a question, I'd be happy to do that. If I don't know the answer, I tend to know somebody that probably does, and so happy to just help business owners continue to achieve their goals and move forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. We're going to obviously, as we do with all of our episodes, we're going to include Jason's contact information in the show notes. Make it real easy for you when you find the show, no matter where you're listening to this or watching this online. This is broadcast over a lot of different social media and podcast stations, wherever that may be. There's going to be show notes there. We're going to put it all there for you. You can just click on it, connect with Jason and his team, and better understand your data, make smarter decisions. That's what it's really all about. And he and his team do a phenomenal job of helping people out there, do better and grow and scale and achieve their bigger goals. So that's it for today's show. Next week, we have something really special in store for you. Next week, we're going to be kind of talking about family businesses and the special dynamics that are unique in family businesses. Um, they have unique challenges that hold them back from being great. And we're going to be talking about that, breaking that down, sharing some stories about that. And more importantly, going to be talking about how to prevent those things, or more importantly, maybe how to overcome them if you're stuck in those things right now. And so you won't want to miss that. If you're in a family business, this is an episode you're definitely going to want to tune into. That's it for this week, everybody. Have a great week.